Hey, this is Xavier Smith, and I want to tell you about this app called Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, and let me explain. Off gate is free. Free to use, free to download, all that. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. That's what I'm doing right now, dog. I ain't got all that fancy equipment and none of that. I do it off my phone. I'm telling my story, you feel me? For free. Putting it out there. You gotta believe in yourself and trust in yourself. Okay? Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. I think I just got an update from Google Podcasts that my shit is on there now. You feel me? You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That's what I'm doing right now too, recording for y'all. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you're listening to me, you got a story to tell, go ahead, download the app and get on it. Make your own podcast. It's easy setup. Go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Peace and love. Hey, what's happening? This is Xavier Smith with the first episode of the P.I.R.C podcast, and I want to go ahead and apologize ahead of time. I'm going to do some stumbling, you know what I'm saying, stuttering and shit like that or whatever, you feel me? But I just started recording, so we'll get through it, man. It's all love. I'm here to inspire and inform, you know what I mean? So that's what it's going to be. Yeah, so the P.I.R.C podcast, that's P.I.R.C. Prison Industrial Recidivism Complex. If you don't know what the prison industrial complex is basically, you know what I'm saying, written and research proof that the U.S. government and states are making money off of locking poor people up, basically, more or less. So what I added to it was the recidivism complex. They not only make money off of locking your ass up, they make money off of setting up certain systems for instead of reform and redemption, for you to reside back into the criminal justice system. So that's the concept of the podcast. And today I want to talk about the most common question I get asked whenever people hear that I've been in prison. And it is, what's the craziest thing you've seen in prison? Which, you know what I'm saying, I can understand. I remember when my grandpa was younger. When we were younger, my grandpa was younger too, but we found out he was in the Vietnam War, whatnot, and we used to always ask him, what's the craziest thing you seen over there? Did you kill anybody? You know what I'm saying, goofy questions like that as a kid, but for some reason, people are fascinated, and that's the most common question I get, so I don't think the answer I give them is necessarily what they're looking for. I think they're looking for stories of rape, murder, escapes or whatever like that. But in fact, it's the exact opposite. I told them the craziest thing I've seen in prison is that more of us aren't trying to escape. People are actually doing that time. You know what I mean? So, shit crazy to me too. But today I wanted to take a look into that. You know what I'm saying? I got a few discussion points. I took a few notes. Stuff like that. So that's what we're about to get into. So, why don't more prisoners try to escape? Okay, you got your obvious reasons. Security. You know what I mean? You got barbed wire fences. Some are electric. most, if not all, are triggered by sensors, motion sensors and stuff like that or whatnot. But not all prisons are secured the same way. You got certain level of custodies. You got closed custody, which is maximum security prison for the worst type of inmates, the killers, those convicted of murder, and violent crimes and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Robberies, serious shit. And it also, your custody level, what type of security prison you go to, also depends on your behavior while you in prison, the length of time you got. So I'd say maybe 7 times out of 10, unless they're under the old law, you know what I'm saying, 10 times out of 10, you're not going to have someone with life in prison or 50 years in prison on a minimum security prison camp. You know what I mean? But they got the older laws before they were updated where a lifer can get a chance at parole and so forth like that. So you got different custody levels, but still, and we'll get into the notes that I found researched earlier. We'll get into those later in the show, but the rates for escapes and attempted escapes is the same across the board, whether they're in maximum security prison or low security prison. Then some might ask or automatically assume that inmates aren't trying to escape because they're not smart. But you got to think about this, you know what I'm saying? I think that's something that can be dismissed right off the gate. You definitely got some dumbass criminals. We all know that. You feel me? But you got some criminal masterminds in there too. They're not in there. You got a lot of guys who aren't in there for petty crimes, for running, you know what I'm saying, operations. As a matter of fact, just to make a point, we ain't gonna name no names, nothing like that, but most of the street organizations in the free world are ran by, you know what I'm saying, the higher ups, which are behind walls in prison. So they let you know, like, guys aren't stupid. You know what I'm saying? They running continuing criminal enterprises, but they ain't figured a way out of those walls yet. Another thing I thought about was just outright fear, or maybe even a case of Stockholm syndrome, which you definitely have that, you know. And what I mean by Stockholm syndrome, if you don't know, you had a group of bank employees in Stockholm. Where was Stockholm? Denmark or Sweden? Back in the day, they were held up and held hostage by the bank robbers, and once released, they wouldn't tell on the bank robbers. They raised money for the bank robbers' defense and everything. You know what I'm saying? You got, and there's very large cases of this in the prison system. You know what I'm saying? You understandably have a natural distaste for the law amongst most inmates. You know what I'm saying? The convict code, what we call it. But you got a lot of rat ass, bitch ass individuals in there. And we can't necessarily even call them that. A rat is a rat, but having Stockholm syndrome, you just been tricked into thinking that the system is fair somehow, and that these people who work there or put you there actually care about you in some type of way. So, and on the subject of fear, I've also seen cases to where you'll have a guy been locked up for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're actually scared. The end of their sentence is coming up, and they're actually afraid to go home. I've seen guys do 20 plus years and come back and violate as soon as they get out there on the street as a free man because they can't handle the pressure. You know what I'm saying? Back within a week or a couple months. You know what I'm saying? It happens all the time. I did more than one prison bid. And I can't even call it. I'm going to have to do some research on that, the psychology of that. So with those points being made, custody levels, the intelligence of prisoners, and the concept of fear and Stockholm syndrome. I was thinking, what kind of ways does those same fears translate to us not trying to escape what is virtually imprisonment or slavery out here in the free world? For example, the things I thought of was bills and debt. You know what I mean? You got people every day who think about starting their own business, or just traveling the world, or, you know what I'm saying, following another hobby. Maybe they want to be with another man or a woman, you know what I'm saying, but they don't never do it because of fear, you know what I'm saying, of bills and debt and financial instability. And I think we all be a fool to think that our government doesn't, the system, you know what I'm saying, those running the government don't use those things to their advantage. Another concept I came up with was abusive relationships, environments, and etc. And it's just like the Stockholm syndrome, dog. Like the good cop, bad cop, the the Willie Lynch syndrome is any of those who are well studied and knowledgeable would know it to be. You know what I mean? And then sometimes, you know what I'm saying, we victims of what's known as the Stockholm syndrome from our environment, the neighborhood or family that we grew up in. You know what I mean? They all think one way, and we can't see ourselves thinking any other way. And that shit's sad, man. You got to get out of that. We all do. I fight every day, you know what I mean? Trying to get out that mindset. Love my family, love my hood, where I'm from. But you got to think individually, independently. So, and another one was similar to bills and debt, but it's lack of financial literacy. And I think that translates to the intelligence aspect. Are inmates actually smart enough to devise a plan to escape prison? You know what I mean? Are you smart enough? Are we smart enough to create a plan to escape? You know what I mean? Dependence on this job, or dependence on this one source of income, or this. I know people who get money 7 different ways and still broke as fuck or in debt. You know what I mean? Financial literacy, man, and discipline. You feel me? So I just wanted to make those points and those translations to living in prison, life in prison, why people not escaping that, and why people not escaping imprisonment in what seems a free world. You know what I mean? Because we know ain't nothing free in this world, dog. This is the United States of America Incorporated, sir. That's the reality of it. All right, so just to make the point, drive the point all the way home, I wrote down a couple, some of the most recent and infamous prison escapes in the state of North Carolina, where I did my time at. This is all I could find. 2016, you got a man charged with first-degree murder. He escaped from the Central Hospital. You got another man around the same time escaped from Green Correctional Center in Martin, North Carolina. He was locked up for doing time for obtaining property. So it's two different ends. Doing time for obtaining property by false pretense. So that's completely two different ends of the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? A murderer, for him to be on he escaped from the Central Prison Hospital. I forget exactly what prison he was at, what he was housed at, but it's still two different ends of the spectrum. Like a murderer and a guy who locked up for something as small as obtaining property by false pretense. Like, he wasn't doing no real time for that. He still tried to get the fuck up out of there, though. Okay, in 2012, you had a man escape from Tillery Correctional Institution, minimum security, in Halifax County. He was serving 3 life sentences since 1981 for a double homicide and robbery. After being denied parole in 2011 and 2014, over 30 years later, he ran for it. And from my research, he hadn't been caught yet. Okay, there was one other big one. I didn't do the attempted escapes because those shits are tragic, and as much as I don't fuck with COs, you know what I'm saying, with most of those attempted escapes that I was looking up, dudes was slaughtering them COs, so I ain't want to put that in the show out of respect for the families and stuff like that. But it was another one, a woman in 1977. And she got caught in Fayetteville in 2015. And they said in an interview after the woman got caught, it was an FBI search for escaped inmates. And they said in an interview after she was caught that she got a visit from one of her children and said something was going on. She wouldn't go into detail about it, but I guess she walked off a work release job or something. But yeah, she was out for freaking, what's that, 30 years basically. Over 30 years, that's 40. But yeah, so escaping from prison is a Class H felony. That's not, you know what I'm saying, that's on the low spectrum. It's not, you're not getting a lot of time for that. They probably add another year at the most, you know what I'm saying? You might get 6 months, depending on your charges and your record. Get another year added onto your charge once you get caught again. You feel me? It's not that big of a penalty to deter people from trying to escape. You understand? So it's more of a mental thing, whatever it is. Whatever the reason is for people, inmates not trying to escape more often. As us individuals, so-called free individuals out here. 2012, you had six escapees who were later caught. It says only 5 escaped since 2000 that have escapees since 2000 that haven't been caught. Okay, so as of 2018, it's documented 35,166 inmates in North Carolina State Prison. You feel me? So another note I got is currently 155 inmates escaped that haven't been captured in North Carolina dating back to 1947. 14 of them are so old that they assume are dead. So that takes it down to about 130 something. You feel me? So out of 35,166 inmates in North Carolina State Prison, 140, 130 so inmates that haven't been caught, escapees that haven't been caught. That's less than freaking, man. That's less than 10%. That's less than 1%. You know what I'm saying? Like, dudes ain't even trying, dog. Dudes ain't even trying, man. So I'm gonna wrap up the show. One of the things I hear most often is, "Oh man, you did that time. I couldn't do that. You did that much time. I ain't no way, man. I couldn't do it." The thing is, if you make those type of decisions that end you up in those places, then that's what it's gonna be, man. You, like I said, 35,000 inmates, 150 escapees. Those are ones that haven't been caught. It's more people who attempted to escape and so forth, but less than 1% are actually trying to escape, dog, or escaping. So that means 9 times out of 10, if your ass get locked up for doing whatever you did, get caught, then you're gonna do that time, man. It ain't too many people, you know what I'm saying, who trying to get up out of there. They make a way, they cope with it in whatever way. Besides the prison lawyers, stuff like that. But that's a whole nother subject. We'll have a whole nother show about that. We'll talk about inmate officer violence. You know what I mean? What's going on with that? But, yeah, later episodes. It was good kicking it with y'all, man. And I know I did a lot of stumbling and stuttering. This is my first time kind of like speaking publicly. Y'all ain't trying to hear that shit, though. You feel me? It is what it is, but we're going to get better with it. And it's all love, man. And I appreciate, you know what I'm saying, you tuning in. I want you to check out my book, Living in Prison, by Xavier Smith. Spelled how I got it on the podcast, you feel me? It's on Amazon Kindle, you feel me? The print version is coming soon. I'm going to give y'all an update on that. Love and peace.